as many of you will know, there's several employment law changes coming in April of this year and through to next year. So today we're going to be specifically focusing on sick pay and the upcoming changes. So what we will cover today is what those changes are, the impact of high sickness, reporting sickness absence, managing sickness absence, and then a little bit on mental health and disability considerations, and then any actions that you need to take away now. So in relation to the changes to sick pay, so currently statutory sick pay is payable from the fourth qualifying day, and to be eligible currently for statutory sick pay, you have to be earning at least £125 a week. So from April 2026, this will be changing. So the statutory sick pay rate will be increasing to £123.25p. And also SSP is going to be payable from day one. So there will be no 3 days waiting for SSP to kick in. It is going to be payable from day one. And also the lower earnings limit is going to be removed. So this means part-time employees, lower paid staff, everyone will be entitled to statutory sick pay. So with that, statutory sick pay will either be the flat rate of the £123 a week, or for people who don't earn that amount, it will be 80% of their average weekly wages. So obviously this is going to have an impact on your business. So as already mentioned, low earning employees will now be eligible for SSP come April. There will potentially be a financial cost increase to you because obviously SSP is now payable from day one, and that therefore means that problem sickness absences shouldn't be ignored. You should be reporting on absences and managing any concerns. Obviously, this becomes more critical, and you should be following processes such as return to work check-ins with all employees after every absence. And in light of the changes, things such as contracts of employment and handbooks and sickness policies will need to be updated. So obviously the changes in relation to the statutory sick pay, they'll need to be reflected in contracts and policies. But in relation to reporting sickness absences, you'll need to ensure that your policy reflects your current practice. So employees ideally should be reporting their absences to their manager, and ideally by phone, not by text message, email. It's always good for you to actually speak to the employee. For sicknesses up to 7 calendar days, employees should self-certify. Usually this can be done if you have a HR system such as Breathe. This can be done on the HR system. And for any absences from day 8 onwards, this should be covered by a medical certificate, which can be obtained by a doctor. So keeping track of absences is obviously important. It's important so you can monitor individual absences and also the company absence levels. It's also important to determine the statutory sick pay payments and also the costs for the business. If absences have been recorded and you're keeping track of them, you'll also have a better understanding if a trigger point has been reached by the employees. And it's also a reminder for you to hold those return to work interviews. So once absences have been recorded and you're monitoring sickness absences, there are several things that you should be looking out for. So this is things such as, have employees had more than one absence per month? Are they having absences at a similar time? So whether that be, every Friday or every Monday. Also, is someone regularly off with the same condition and the same sickness type? And also, if anyone is suffering from stress. You should also keep an eye out to see if employees have known health conditions, if there are any performance issues, any personal problems, or if an employee has a disability. In relation to short-term sickness, there are a few common causes of short-term absence. So that might be flare-ups of medical conditions. They may be having family problems, stress, and mental health. And another factor could be workplace factors, so such as volume of work, if there's unhappy working relationships and things like that. So the initial steps to take in relation to sickness absence. So employees should obviously call their line manager. Any absences should be recorded on an absence management system if you have them. And you should be holding the return to work interviews with all employees after every absence. So by holding the return to work interviews, this obviously helps deter casual absences, because then employees will be aware that you are doing the return to work meetings after every absence, and they may think twice about having a day off here and there. So in relation to the return to work interviews, you should be asking questions such as, have they seen a GP? How are they feeling? Do they require any support? If there are any disabilities or long-term conditions that are affecting their number of absences. As already said, employers should self-certify for up to 7 days, and an absence over 7 days needs to be covered by a medical certificate. So where an absence has reached a defined threshold, you should hold an informal absence review with the employee. With the threshold, this is obviously going to be different for different businesses. So if you're using the Bradford factor to monitor sickness absence, we suggest that any Bradford factor that's reached 90 or above, you should have the first informal absence review meeting with an employee. Or it may be that your policy is 5 absences or more, or 8 days or more. So the threshold is dependent on each and every business. You should identify if there are any absence patterns or underlying causes for the sickness absence, and also if any of the absences might be work related. So once you've determined whether a threshold has been met, whether there are any patterns of absence, any underlying conditions, then you should obviously invite an employee to an informal absence review meeting. In an informal absence review meeting, you should obviously discuss the absence with the employee and the level of their sickness and what impact that is having on the business. You should try and understand if there are any underlying causes, and also how you can support the employee. If the employee hasn't raised anything in relation to like a long-term condition or a disability, then you should make them aware that you will continue to monitor their absence. And if there's no improvements, then you will start a formal process. Where if during the informal absence review meeting, if an employee has flagged that they have a long-term condition or a disability, you may want to consider an occupational health referral before you progress any further with the absence process, just to try and understand a bit more about their conditions and the impact of that and the ways you can support them. And also, if someone is suffering from mental health related illness, you may want to consider going through a wellness action plan with them. Before, so once obviously you've had a informal absence review meeting with an employee and you continue to monitor it and the level of absence hasn't improved, if you're thinking about then moving on to a formal absence meeting, there are a few things that you want to do prior to holding the formal stage. So you want to obviously check patterns of absence or any concerns, review the actions already taken. At this point as well, you may want to consider doing a wellness action plan, also consider the occupational health referral and whether that's needed. And also you will need to be able to demonstrate that, you know, you have taken reasonable steps to support the employee. If all those things have been considered and done, then obviously you will then be able to invite the employee to a formal absence meeting. So in relation to the formal stages of absence, you will need to invite the employee to a formal meeting, making them aware of the dates and the concerns, and also making them aware that it may lead to a warning. At any formal meeting, including a formal absence meeting, the employee has the right to be accompanied at the meetings. So that will be either by a trade union rep or a colleague. So during that meeting, you'll obviously need to explain that the absences are at an unsatisfactory level and the reasons why, and it will give the employer an opportunity to explain their absences. Once you've had that meeting with the employee and they've had a chance to explain their absences, you will then need to decide if formal action will be taken and the next steps in the process and a deadline for review. So after the first formal meeting, you can either issue the employee with a first written warning, or you can set them targets, not issue a warning, set them targets, and then invite them to a further meeting if their absences haven't improved. We would usually suggest, if you have followed the informal absence process already and things haven't improved, that after the first formal meeting, you can then issue them with a formal warning. So now we just have a poll for you all with a question. Jane?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how this is going to work. Oh, there we go. So just a question for you all, and you'll just need to click which answer you think is relevant. So Tom notices that Adam is always off sick when the monthly reports are due. What should Tom do? Ignore the issue, it will probably sort itself out. Hold an informal meeting with Adam, start a formal absence management process, or sack him.
This is just a bit of fun to see if we're all awake. So I'll end the poll. Hopefully it should share the results. There we go. Is that sharing?
Yeah, so the majority of you have said hold an informal meeting with Adam, and 11% has said start a formal absence management process. So here, obviously, if you do notice patterns of absence, and there's a particular time in the month or week or days that someone is always having off, if you haven't already had an informal conversation with the employee, that would be your first step to hold an informal absence review meeting with the employee to discuss your concerns and allow them to share any insights into that. So yes, the majority of you had put hold an informal meeting. So now we're just going to move on to mental health concerns. So mental health challenges are incredibly common. So 1 in 4 people experience a mental health problem each year. So it is normal, it's not unusual. With mental health concerns, symptoms often fluctuate. So short intermittent absences may actually be linked to underlying mental health issues. Early support and conversations are important, and it reduces the likelihood of issues escalating. So if you do think someone is suffering with mental health, or they have flagged it to you, you shouldn't ignore it, and you should have those early conversations with them. So spotting possible mental health concerns, there are several things that you can look out for in relation to this. So changes in behaviour, people might be quieter than usual, irritable, tearful, withdrawn. If someone is suffering with their mental health, they can have reduced concentration, or their decision making may not be as it was. They may be making more errors than usual. If people are having a lot of short-term absence, and their reasons for absence are vague, sometimes that can point to them having some mental health issues. Notable changes in appearance, energy levels, or confidence, and also colleagues may express concerns or changes in team interactions. So practical steps for mental health concerns. So you can use the return to work meetings to explore wellbeing. You can find a quiet, private and comfortable place to talk. It's always best to ask open questions. So how are things at the moment? Is anything impacting you at work? You can then obviously mention the specific changes that you've noticed. So I've noticed that you've not been yourself lately. Is there anything on your mind? In relation to these types of meetings, it's always best to listen and not judge. So allow the employee to talk without interrupting, and also not try to fix their problems. Just allow them the time to talk through it with you. And it's also important to focus on support, not diagnosis. Obviously, we're not experts in that area, and you don't need to be an expert. If someone is suffering with their mental health, it's good to encourage them to take action. So you can suggest that they speak with their GP, recommend a local therapist, direct them to organisations like Mind. You can also explain what support you can offer them. So we've already mentioned the wellness action plan if someone is suffering with their mental health, or occupational health referrals. So wellness action plan. I know a few of you will be aware of what a wellness action plan is, but it's a simple tool from Mind, the mental health charity. So it's not something we've actually put together. It's something that Mind has put together. And essentially, it's just a form with questions, and it helps you to identify what are the trigger points for poor mental health, what support the employee would find beneficial, and how you can respond early. So with the wellness action plan, we would suggest that you work through it together, but also send the employee the form in advance of the meeting, just because if you go into the meeting and have the form and it's something the employee hasn't already seen, they might find it overwhelming, and it's probably easier for them, to have a look at the form in advance, think about it, and then come into the meeting prepared. So with a wellness action plan, we would suggest that you review it regularly. So don't just use it as a one-off. Once you've gone through it with the employee, come back to it and review it regularly. It's also good if you've implemented things such as reasonable adjustments and support. If you review it, you can then see, whether that support has been beneficial, if they require something else to support them, whether it's still needed, etc. So the wellness action plan is helpful to managers, so they can tailor adjustments and also spot any early signs of deterioration. So when to involve occupational health. So occupational health can aid in understanding of the situation and suggest reasonable adjustments. So they usually advise on, future outcomes, whether it's likely that the absences will continue, their capacity to work, and any restrictions and recommended support. So using on occupational health can prevent the need for formal absence processes. And it also ensures that decisions are evidence-based and fair to protect the business. Now, just moving on to long-term sickness. So, long-term sickness is described as an absence of more than 4 weeks. So, with this, you can regularly review the length of absence, their employees, current health, their readiness to return to work, and whether you can facilitate a return. Usually with long-term sickness, we recommend that you work with HR to determine the next steps and also consider obtaining medical advice, such as an occupational health report. So managing return to work after time off. So the whole purpose of managing long-term sickness absence is to ensure a timely and smooth return to work. So when someone is off on long-term sick, we recommend that you speak to them to try and determine things such as if they want you to contact them, how they'd like to be contacted, etc. Because some people like to be contacted, a lot, and other people don't. So whilst you're managing a long-term sickness absence in relation to their return to work, you can discuss with the employee what steps are needed to enable them to return. So things to consider are a phased return to work, whether initially, they can only return on 2 days a week, or whether they can only work shortened hours, etc. Whether they're able to perform all their duties or whether they need light duties. It may be that if someone has a physical job and the absence has impacted them, they may need light duties or office work or things like that if possible. If they're on any medication and the side effects of any medication, and also arrange longer term support. So with this, we suggest that you monitor and review arrangements regularly. So if someone's on a return to work, if they're on a phased return for 4 weeks, we would suggest that you review it week by week to see if any further adjustments need to be made. So actions for you to take away now. So review the impact of the SSP changes from April. Ensure that you have a method for recording absences. Schedule regular time to review absence levels. We suggest that you should be reviewing this at least monthly to identify if there are any absence issues. Implement return to work check-ins for every absence and every employee. Again, we would suggest a standard form that you use with everybody. Take advice for complex cases and prepare bullets in advance of any meetings you're having, whether that's, informal meetings, formal meetings. Don't ignore warning signs of mental health challenges and consider using the wellness action plan for everyone. So with the wellness action plan, it was originally designed for mental health challenges, but we have adapted it to use as even as part of inductions, so just asking employees simple questions, to find out relevant information, which we will share with you afterwards.
Thanks, Laura. Laura's obviously taken us through a lot of information then. There's a couple of things for you to consider. One of the things that we see a lot when we go into a client who has high absence levels is that they just don't know what the absence is. They're just not recording it. We use a really simple system called Breathe. Obviously, you don't have to use Breathe. Any method of recording it is better than no method, but Breathe does bring it all together in one place. And the benefit is that you can actually see and track some of the things that Laura's talking around. What's the level of absence overall? Where have you got patterns? Who are the people who are above, perhaps the trigger points that you have, whether that's using the Bradford score or using kind of days or instances of absence. So I think have a look at definitely how you record an absence, because that is a number one. If you're not recording the absence, you don't know what absence you've got, you're probably overpaying people for being off sick. Obviously, for going, from the 1st of April, we are going to be having SSP from day one. So there is going to be an impact, even if you are recording the absence and putting it through your payroll correctly. You just want to know what you're dealing with so that then you can actually take action in the way that we've explained. So if you want to have a look at Breathe, let me know. We can obviously give you a demo, give you a bit more information. The other thing that I think is really important for this year, as we see lots of changes to employment law, not just this one, but there are going to be a whole suite of changes coming over the next few months, is that you strengthen your management capability. The first line of defense in a lot of the things that will be changing will be your managers. So the better informed they are, the more understanding they have about, priorities in people management and how we deal with certain situations like performance, disciplinary matters, people maybe not being happy at work. It all falls on the manager. Like, it's a huge role, and we do need to make sure that our managers are being given the right skills and equipment and support to do their jobs. One of the things we do offer is management development training. It's obviously there's lots of training online as well as this. This is just one option, but I would encourage you to have a look at basic management training support for your teams, to give them that confidence, to give them that framework, to make sure they understand how to implement some of the things that Laura's talked about today, in a way that feels in line with their style of being a manager. So if you take one thing away from this, other than the process steps that we've taken, is how are you supporting your managers to make sure that they are able to, protect the business and do their jobs effectively. Lastly, obviously we are an HR consultancy. Many of you on the call are clients, which is fantastic. It's great to see you here. We will be keeping your contracts and policies up to date, obviously with the legislation. So in addition to SSP changing on the 1st of April, we also have paternity leave from day one, parental leave from day one, and then we have other changes coming down the line, as I'm sure you're aware. Make sure you're getting our newsletter, because we do give updates on any changes that affect you from the HR and employment side. You will be getting them through the newsletter. But obviously we're here to support you. If you've got any questions along the way, then please do, drop us a line. Make sure you're communicating with us, which I know some of you definitely are. We're here really to hold your hand through some of the tricky situations, as well as help you be proactive around some of these changes. So we're coming to the end of our slides here, so it's really open up the floor. We're very happy to take questions. You should be able to unmute yourself. If you can't, I think you should be able to hold up your hand, but does anyone have any questions? I hope someone does, otherwise me and Laura will be sitting here. Were any of the points chiming with any of you? Do any of you have any sort of particular situations that you're concerned about? Obviously, confidentially. Pretty sure that's not how
No, I think we.
All good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. Well, I hope you found it useful. I mean, one of the key takeaways for me from this whole thing is just how you can use wellness action plans. They're such a simple tool, but they're very, very effective. And if you're a manager and you can see that someone in your team is maybe struggling, it gives you authority to kind of ask them those questions that maybe you wouldn't ask if you were just having a chit chat with them. So it doesn't have to be formal. You can do it, when you go for a walk, or you could do it sitting in a van. It's just great open questions. The more you do these things, the more more confidently you'll do it naturally with people as you sit with them. Did you have a particular question, Joe?
No.
No, I just unmuted us. I thought you wanted people to just say yes or no. So,
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for saying something. It's always nice to have a bit of interaction.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
It's just about the like occupational health referrals. So I've got no experience at all with occupational health. So what happens? Does the occupational health person meet with the employee and then also meet with us and then produce a report that we can then, like, how does that all work?
Do you want to answer that?
So with the occupational health referral, the manager and obviously with HR if need be, will put together questions to ask the occupational health advisor. So information you want to find out, whether the sickness is likely to continue, if any reasonable adjustments will help support the employee, whether it's covered under the disability, etc. So the manager and HR wouldn't usually meet with the occupational health advisor, but we would input questions, and then the occupational health advisor will meet with the employee, usually over the phone, to discuss their absences, etc. And then the occupational health provider puts together a report for the manager.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful.
We do work with a number of occupational health providers, and it does sort of depend on the type of situation you have as to who might be relevant. So do talk to us if you have an employee that you think actually we don't really understand the health condition, we don't really understand the impact of what they're dealing with and how we can make reasonable adjustments. That's the perfect scenario where we would say get occupational health involved, because we're not medical, like you're not a medical expert, we're not a medical expert. We can't say, oh, this person needs this. That's where we would bring that person in. And depending on whether it's like more mental health related or whether it's physical, perhaps they've, had a back injury or something, and we want someone to check it out to say, well, how much work can they take on? That's again a perfect scenario for a referral. Great question. Does anyone else have any questions? We're more than happy to answer any questions at all.
Hi, Jane. Yeah, I've
yeah.
got
Hi,
a question. Hello. I'm not sure of our policy, but basically, if someone's off sick, we would pay them like full pay.
Yes.
And then it'll say in our policy to a certain level, and then statutory sick pay would apply. But what you're saying is we could just say statutory sick pay is due from day one.
Well, if you've got a contractual sick pay, you can't just take that away from people.
No.
That's part of their entitlement. No. But what normally happens with contractual sick pay is it will be up to a certain number of days. So let's say it said 5 days in any 12-month rolling period, you could get company sick pay. So if they were off sick for 6 days, in the current world, they would get full pay for 5 days, and then they would drop to statutory for the 6th day.
Okay.
But if they had another absence, a 7th, 8th, 9th day, they would get no pay for those days, okay? Because it's 5 days over the entire year, not 5 days for every absence.
Okay.
Whereas in this situation, they would exhaust, so after the 1st of April, they would exhaust their company sick pay for day 1 to 5, drop to statutory for day 6, but then day 7, 8, and 9, if it was a separate absence, they would get SSP from day 1, whereas before they would have had to have waited for another 3 days. So if you think about it, if you've got high level of short absences, where currently 1, 2, 3 days, the business is not costing them anything at all, you're suddenly getting that cost. And actually, if you've got a decent amount of staff and a high level of sickness, it doesn't take a long time for that to add up.
Yeah, okay.
Having said that, many small businesses, because they're not even recording their absence, they're not necessarily on top of how much, is somebody actually off sick, and are we reducing their pay? So there's a whole nother issue there. And we do get asked quite a lot as well, someone's off sick, or someone's saying they're not well enough to come in, but they're going to work from home, but they don't want to attend any calls. And you think, well, actually, that's not okay. Like, if part of your job is to go to client meetings, you can't just turn around and say, well, I'm not doing any client meetings. So
that's a very current issue, I imagine.
Yeah. So, and in some scenarios, you might think, well, actually, it's better to have a bit of this person doing some work from home than for them to be entirely off sick. It depends on the business. But in other scenarios, if they're in a role where, they're saying regularly, oh, I'm not doing any client calls today, and that's the main part of their job, then, that's not okay. So again, it's just with these type of situations where it's a little bit grey, especially since COVID, where we've maybe been a bit relaxed about, or if you've got a bit of sniffles, we don't expect you to come in, kind of thing.
Okay, no, that's helpful. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? One of the things that we do offer, if you are on Breathe, is to set you up with a monthly absence report. Because I realise we go on these things, we have great intentions, we want to look at our absence rate, we're going to get on top of it, and then 2 months down the line it's kind of gone on the bottom of the to-do list. But actually, if you see that in black and white every month, this is my absence stats, it does keep it top of mind. So some of these reports in Breathe in future we'll be able to automate so that they're actually delivered to your inbox. At the moment, we just run the monthly report for you and just highlight anyone who needs that first absence meeting. Like Laura was saying, if they've got that Bradford score of over 90, or, we're seeing that they're tracking 5 or more absences over the year, then we'll highlight them. And it's just that extra kind of push to do something about it. Particularly as, as I say to you, you are going to see additional costs if you're seeing your absence rate go up, and, the incentive not to be off is taken away because, people are now going to receive some pay, although albeit a lot lower than usually their normal salary. Any other questions? I'm conscious of your time. We did say we'd run this for 45 minutes, so we're almost on time. So I have recorded the webinar, so we will send that out to you. But obviously, if you've got any other questions, myself and Laura are more than happy to answer them. So please do drop us a line, and we will do more of these as we see the other legislation changes coming in. The big one, which I hope you're all aware of, is the unfair dismissal changes, meaning that after 6 months, employees will have the right to claim unfair dismissal from January 2027, which is a significant one for making sure that we are hiring the right people and that we're taking them through that probation review process, so that before 6 months, ideally at 5 months, we know that they're definitely the right person to continue working in the business. So that is a really big one for small business owners. So expect to hear more from us on that over the coming months as we get under the skin of what the legislation is actually going to say. But thank you all for your time today. It's so lovely to see you all, and do drop us a line and let us know what you think and if it's helpful.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
All right. See you soon then.